You're listening to The Patriot from Mount Huth in Yuba County out here in the state of Jefferson. This is Lou Benninger, and Santos and I, Wikiman, are here today. We're live. We're looking at each other through the glass here, wondering what we're going to do for 3 hours. But we got the redneck rain gauge set out today because it's raining. I've been overseas, and when I got back, I thought, oh, something's been going on. There's water standing all over the place. Must be getting some rain around here. Snow's on the mountains and everything. So we getting some weather this weekend, and so I hope you got your roof fixed out here. It's a little wet, so if we short out here, that means that the electricity got connected with the water, and we got problems. But up until then, we're going to be blasting away here for 3 hours till noon. And you can call us if you'd like, and we'll answer the phone at 530-742-5555. That's 530-742-5555. I'm thinking about you guys over in Idaho that are listening. You guys must be freezing your little rear ends off over there. And also want to mention there's a number of ways to listen to us. You may be listening on the radio, and you may be out in an area that is a little tough for reception. If that's a problem for you, you can go on our website at kmycradio.com and click on the Listen Live icon, and you should be able to hear a clear live stream. If that's a problem, you can go on one of these phone apps. I meet more and more people that they say, oh, Lou, we just go on the phone. Google the KMYC radio, and we just go on and listen right on the phone. So there's all kinds of ways that are smarter than I am that you can listen. And if you don't have time to fuss around, or something happens and you got to leave the show and you wish you would stick around, or you want to hear something, you want to check something I said, you get all lathered up and you want to go back and take a shot at me, you can listen to it later at One Eye Blind Media. That's a YouTube channel, One Eye Blind Media. It's Chris Starkey's YouTube, and he places a number of different shows on there, and you can go over there in probably within 24 hours after we get off the air here and catch the show over there. It's a little bit edited because they pull off some of the YouTube clips that we play here because we don't want to violate the YouTube copyright rules. So One Eye Blind Media, and then when you get there, just look for Live with Lou. Somebody called me the other day when we were here, and there was a picture of Mr. Magoo, the cartoon character, and they said, Lou, is that what you look like? And I said, pretty close. It's pretty close. So there's a picture of a cartoon character, Mr. Magoo, and that's kind of the icon. I think Chris picked that, Chris Starkey. So we thank Chris for all the hard work he puts into this. He does it as a courtesy to us. We're actually on the air here talking for food, and so we have some folks that help us stay on the air. One of have been our biggest supporter for 5 years has been Dave Greenitz at Greenitz Construction, and I've known Dave for over 40 years, and he and his wife Leslie, I knew him before they actually became a couple, and Dave has been a close friend and a big supporter of the radio program, but he makes a living. We talk for food, and he does remodeling for food. So if you want to check out his website, greenitzconstruction.com, it will blow your mind because those photos of all the remodels, bathrooms, kitchen remodels, decks, front doors, he does some of the nicest work in town and the Yuba Sutter areas, and sometimes he ventures out a bit, but he's got tons of work in the Yuba Sutter area. And even during the downturn, I think he kept busy, but he does some incredibly beautiful, shockingly stunning kitchens and baths. I've always said if I had a bathroom like he creates, I probably wouldn't leave it. I'd just camp out in there. So unbelievable. So he might give you a deadhead discount if you mention it. He used to be a road hog and following the Grateful Dead around, listening to them play back in the day when he was just getting out of high school. So if you mention our show and say, "Hey, Lou said you might be able to give me a deadhead discount," he might look like he might look favorably on that. The other outfit that has supported us now, they're starting their second year. It's pretty soon here. They're coming up the end of their first year of support, is Elite Universal Security. And they are a local Yuba County business, but they're scattered up and down the valley. Their business has continued to expand all the way up to Redding, Butte County, all the way up, just doing all kinds of security work, providing security for businesses and homes, and also hiring people. They got jobs. So you can go to EliteUniversalSecurity.com, or you could go to API-Academy.com, and you could get into the guard business and security business. And I just was noticing the other day, because I got a Christmas card from these guys, and I was looking at some of the services they provide. And among other things, besides providing firearms training, they do a mobile notary service. I don't know if you've ever used a notary service, but most people don't need one very often. But when you want one, you wonder who does that. And you usually got to go someplace and make an appointment, go in, take your paperwork, da-da-da-da. But Monty Hecker, they'll come to you and do that notary work. So that's cool. And the other thing that's inconvenient, if you ever need a live scan, sometimes you can get them at the sheriff's departments, but usually you have to go in at a certain time frame at a certain part of the week. With Elite Universal Security out here in Yuba County on Feather Boulevard, you can just go in there Monday through Friday and get yourself scanned. Pretty convenient. So at 5548 Feather Boulevard, they have some classes coming up at Elite Universal Security, and they're taking kind of December off for their classes for firearm renewal or getting your concealed weapon permit. Since everybody's busy during the holidays, they're going to kick it off again in January 12th and 13th. 12th is the classroom training, 13th is the range day, and also renewals will be held on January 13th, and then they have another round on the 26th and 27th, same type of schedule, and then they also have a taser and pepper spray class that they'll be holding on January 5th. So they need at least three students to do the taser and pepper spray class. So if you've always wanted to spray somebody, they'll tell you how to do it down there and get them really good. So you won't be spraying yourself in the face. That's one thing you don't want to do. You want to work from the right side of the tube. When you press the button, you don't want to spray yourself in the face. That's happened to me with some projects before. I was like, hey, grab the right side of the can. So we thank Monty Hecker for taking us on. It's helped us a lot out here financially, and we appreciate the work he's done. A lot of the people, he has a lot of workers that are in my neighborhood. I'm downtown Marysville, and we need all the help we can get down there. We got people doing crazy stuff down there, and people hitting people up, going into Walgreens and the bank, and down there at 10th and E. So they got a guard that just hangs out down there and just like make sure people behave themselves, right? It's kind of like yard duty. Remember when you were in school and they wouldn't just let the kids go out for recess. They had yard duty people out there monitoring the situation and hosing people down. Today, adult Americans cannot manage their own lives. Did you know that? We've become so sissified that the founding fathers believed that if we couldn't self-discipline ourselves based upon biblical principles, that we're going to lose the republic and become a police state. And that's what we've become. We can't hire enough sheriffs, deputies, and police officers to keep this thing under control. We got people that actually we're paying them, and they're sleeping all over town, pooping all over town, and we're just trying to I got an email here before when I was getting ready to I was on the road to Vietnam and saying, Lou, what do you think? Should we put up porta potties all over town? I thought maybe the city council should just get those pooper bags and just walk around behind these folks and say, if you feel the urge, I'm a city councilman or a city councilwoman, and I'll like clean up after you. So, we've got down to where, something, if we took the same attitude towards our kids as we do the homeless, they'd never leave home. They would never leave home. You just keep supporting them, and you keep making excuses for them, and you keep making their bed for them and cleaning the toilet for them and washing their clothes for them. And pretty soon those kids said, well, I don't see any purpose in leaving home. I think I ought to just stick around here because life's pretty good here. I don't think I can beat this anywhere. And that's how we deal with the homeless right now. We got activist judges saying that, unless we provide for every need of a homeless person, they have a right to just, they can camp anywhere they want. Isn't that crazy? Judges have now gone totally off the reservation and are just making up rules out of thin air. It isn't the first time. Judges have been doing that forever. Remember that? In fact, I was just listening to the previous show driving into the station here, and they were talking about the Dred Scott decision, where the best minds supposedly in the country decided that slaves were not actual human beings, that you could buy and sell those slaves and just everything, and that somehow they found righteousness in that, and you could dehumanize a whole part of God's creation, people that got imported over here from Africa. So that, and the other thing that the Supreme Court did once upon a time is they decided that you could kill your own baby and everything. There's a constitutional right to end the life of your own baby. Isn't that something? I just think, something, I tell kids in juvenile hall, I said, the worst thing you did wasn't break the law, but you put yourself in the hands of a really screwed up, fallible justice system that one day you go to jail for killing a baby, and the next day you can kill the baby, and you can wear a T-shirt that says, I aborted my kid, hallelujah, and everybody claps for you in some segments of the population. Isn't that crazy? And so kids can't believe that. You said, Lou, in juvenile hall, they said, you're kidding me. You can kill your own baby? I said, yeah, you can kill your own baby, and you can go. You don't have to go to jail for it. They said, that's unbelievable. I said, it is unbelievable. It's fascinating when people, some of the most troubled kids in the community got more sense than the college-educated folks around here. So I saw when I got back into town, there's all kinds of tricky stuff going on the election and politics. People just cheat and stuff. You know that? They just play games and cheat. And I noticed that Judge Aronson, who'd been taking some heat over there in Sutter County over the grand jury report that he flushed down the toilet. And also, many people thought he was being pretty slack on his bail on sexual perverts. He's pretty easy on them. And so all of a sudden, after he ran for election again. Did you know that? In other words, this coming January, in a month from now, he was supposed to start his next 4-year term. Nobody ran against him. So he said, well, I want that job again. But he wasn't being sincere about it. Either there's something scared the hell out of him, or he wasn't being sincere and he was just trying to play a political gimmick, because he had no intention, or he decided he didn't want to serve the 4 years after he decided, here's the deal. Back in June, in the June primary, he could have just let everybody know, I am not going to run again. So all you attorneys out there, if you want my job, compete for it and let the people decide. But instead of that, now I can't read his mind. I don't know what his motives are. Now maybe something really gnarly scared him off from the job for another 4 years. But he gave the people a false impression, fraudulent impression, that he was going to serve another 4 years, right? Because attorneys would have run against him if they thought he wasn't really serious about it. But if you're a smart attorney in a local area, You're not going to run against the judge that you have to appear before all the time because he's liable to just rule against your clients, right? People are fallible, you know. Judges are not perfect. And so after he just had a walk-on, in other words, nobody competed against him, so he just got a free 4 years. Then he decides, before he even got to serve the first day of the next 4 years, he decided, I think I'm going to retire. So that opened it up for the governor of the state to appoint someone to replace him. So that's what happened. So what happens is the people lost the right to choose a justice of their own. But we ended up with a political appointment. It didn't have to be that way. It wasn't like somebody died while in office or committed a crime while in office and got removed from office. He just played a little gimmick. I think Aronson played a little gimmick and got a favorite person that he wanted in there. So we got an attorney that was a research attorney for the courts to take over there. So I just thought that was interesting. It's just the gimmicks that people play with our election system. People always say, oh, well, every vote needs to count and we need to have, the democratic process. And then they immediately after they say all that, then they immediately go out to skirt the process. It's just like we got the grand jury process in Sutter County and all these counties in California to look into government, but when they don't like the answer that the grand jury gives, then they just come up with a reason to eliminate the process. And so they eliminate the grand jury report. So that was Judge Aronson. So he's history, and glad to see him go. And so now we have a lady named Judge Davis, I think her last name is. So, all right. Well, we're going to move on from that. And it's fascinating to me how many liars there are in politics. It's hard to find somebody that's honest. Do you know that? It reminds you why God had to put that thing in there in the 10 Commandments. Don't lie to people. Tell the truth, right? So I got a photo here on my computer of Hillary Clinton looking lots younger, kind of pretty, dressed up nice, standing next to Donald Trump, businessman Donald Trump, back in the day. He's all in a tux and a white bow tie, looking sharp, hair nice and combed. And this is 2013. And there's a quote that says, I would like to see people like Donald Trump run for office. They're honest and can't be bought. I thought, well, isn't that interesting that with that statement, then she turns around, as well as the Democrat Party, all these people, Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, all like to hug him and shake his hand and say what a wonderful guy. He was a defender of the black people. He was great for hiring minorities. He's Mr. Wonderful. And now he can't even say Merry Christmas right, and everybody's upset at him. And so I thought that was interesting. If you're not paying attention to what went on before, that's called history, then you kind of get caught thinking, oh, man, Mr. Trump, man, he must be just some gnarly dude. But everybody loved him before he ran for president. Do you remember that? And so he didn't fit the political mold. So this is the other thing. A lot of us, we just don't know much about the Constitution. They don't teach it in school anymore, and because they don't really want to follow it. The schools are being run by the liberals, and they don't really they want to make up the rules as they go along. It's like the book of Judges in the Bible. Kind of the highlight of the book of the Judges is the judges did what was right in their own eyes, and instead of following God's word. And so today, that's how the liberals want to do it. They don't want to follow the Constitution. They want to just make up the rules as they go along. So when we're talking about, I was over in Vietnam when I was watching this border crashing going on. I thought, oh, this is interesting. And the media, of course, was lying. And there's a code called 8 U.S. Code 1182 called inadmissible aliens, suspension of entry or imposition of restrictions by the president. It says, whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens, of any class of aliens, into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. Now, in that statement, it doesn't say anything about a judge, a federal judge, the Supreme Court, the sub-Supreme Court, or any kind of court has a say in that. In other words, as president, he can just proclaim it. It's a proclamation. He can suspend, he can proclaim, he can impose, right? But then when you talk to the media, when you listen to the media, it's like, oh, he can't do that. What's he doing? What? He can't do that. And even Congress is so sissified, whether they're liberals or whether they got an R after their name, they're all little pussies up there, and no one wants to stand up for what's right. And so there we have it. We have one guy called the President of the United States who's standing up for the law, and everybody is doing everything they can to create enough controversy to somebody either shoot the guy or impeach him or do something radical, run him over, do something to throw him out of office. So we're gonna go to commercial break for a bit, and then we'll be right back for 2.5 hours more of Live with Lou. Welcome back. We're just talking about catching up with some news here. I've been gone for a little bit over to Vietnam. So I want to encourage all you millennials and others that really are into socialism to give it a try. And you don't have to try to convince the rest of Americans to do it. You can just go and visit. And maybe, it's kind of like when they say if you want to buy a house, before you just go buy one somewhere, you ought to go and see if you can stay in that house overnight. See whether you like the neighborhood, check it out. And you may not like, maybe there's dogs barking all over the place, or you got some wild neighbors, and you're going to make an investment. You got to go check it out, spend a night there. And so some of the places you could visit and hang out for a month or so and see whether you really like socialism, Venezuela or Cuba, or like Vietnam, where I just came from. And I was laughing we did a road trip with some Vietnamese friends doing some projects over there. And every time we stopped to get something to eat or drink, they always provided a drink and they always provided a straw without your requesting. And I said, I said to my friend, I said, actually California is more communist than Vietnam. He said, what? I said, yeah. I said, you can't get a straw over there in California unless you make a special request, because now they're managing even how we drink our drinks. Now in Vietnam, they give you a straw because it's sanitary, and if you get a can or a bottle or what, they don't want you to put your lips on it, because who knows who was there before you, right? So they give you a straw. It's a sanitation thing. They're very conscious of cleanliness because you can pick up something. So anyway, they just couldn't believe it. He said, you can't get they don't give you a straw over there? I thought America was like paradise, right? It's like heaven compared to Vietnam. I said, well, it used to be. So it's kind of interesting how things change. I saw this, I thought it was a neat comparison. It says a few weeks ago, I don't know whether, I've never bought a lottery ticket, but probably some of you have out there, or maybe all of you had bought one at one time. When when it gets up there to where you can earn $1 bajillion. It's tempting. Like, who knows? Somebody's going to win that money. So a few weeks ago, over 300 million lottery tickets were sold in 4 days. Is that amazing? Within hours. Do you know who introduced the lottery to California? Remember that? It was a Republican, Pete Wilson. Endorsed gambling, right? Most of the people that buy lottery tickets on a weekly basis are the poor. And so what this is a lottery is really screwing the poor, just another way to sucker the poor. Usually lottery tickets are bought by people that failed in math in high school. A few weeks ago, over 300 million lottery tickets were sold in 4 days, it says. Within hours of the drawing, lottery officials knew how many winning tickets were sold and where the winning tickets were sold. In other words, how many were sold, where they were sold, down to the specific store location. Now, it's amazing, isn't it, that a lottery system, they know everything about that lottery ticket, where it was sold, when it was sold, how it was sold, blah, 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 blah. But 4 days after voting had closed, some voting officials couldn't figure out how many people voted, how they voted, who they voted for, or what the accurate results are. In fact, it seems like we're still working on that. With all the talk of Democrats, like we need to have this, our system's broken, we need to protect people's right to vote, they've actually broken the system. And people, there was a lady, I think in Orange County, I think she was potentially the first congresswoman of Korean background, and she had a 14-point lead. And after they kept finding ballots, they were finding ballots in the back of Taco Bell and everything else. They were just saying, oh, well, there's a box of ballots. Just boxes of ballots were just showing up. Provisional ballots, they call them. And in other words, you can just keep voting, and if they come up with the right stamp on it, it doesn't matter how many days. They could be days and days late, and they could still count them. So you can just keep voting. You see how the election's going, and you can just keep voting, right? And she... At a 14-point lead at the night of the election, she lost. She lost down in Orange County. And all kinds of people lost, but the Republican Party, which really isn't anymore, they're so confused and impotent in California that they didn't even have the beef to rise up and cause a stink about that. But isn't it interesting how we can't seem to get the votes counted, but the lottery system, it's just the same like with the Obamacare website or any of these, it seems like government cannot do a website unless it costs $100 million. But Amazon.com or any of these, you can go discover books. I order a lot of books online. And you can buy books, you can buy clothes, you can buy perfume, you can buy groceries. And they're at your door in 24, 48 hours, and it works pretty darn good. But the government can't seem to pull off a darn thing right? And so now we have the Democrats. We got this floating election. We used to know at the end of the night of the election who won, right? Now it takes months, and we're sorting it out, and ballots keep showing up, and in the back of a bathroom at the ARCO station, they'll find a ballot in a dumpster or something, or a box of ballots, and then they'll be rescuing ballots from everywhere. Shazam, Shazam, here they come. Well, to me, the California voting system is a crock of crap and illegal, and there's all kinds of dishonesty going on with it. And do you remember the DMV? Governor Brown created a situation with the DMV where you come in to vote, come in to register to get a license, register a car, and they register you to vote right there. And it was supposed to be this great system. And then they realized that they were registering people that aren't even supposed to be a voter in this country. Thousands. And they said, oh, well, it's just a small flaw. We got this, right? In the meantime, all kinds of people that aren't even supposed to be voting. In fact, I think in one L.A. district, is it L.A. or I think it's San Francisco, they said for education issues on the ballot that if you're an illegal alien, did you see this? If you're an illegal alien in San Francisco and your kids are in school, you can actually vote you can vote on your education, like the board members and stuff, and you're illegal. You don't have to be a citizen to vote. It's fascinating how we're just like making up rules as we go along. Now, I noticed when I was overseas, I was picking up some information on the internet about around the world, and I noticed that there was a big stink being made that somehow there was complaints made that the law enforcement and the Border Patrol, shame on them for defending themselves against women, children, and guys, pelting them with rocks and all manner of other evil, that they somehow were just supposed to just say, well, sorry, we're police officers, and sorry, we're Border Patrol, but they used tear gas and I don't know, some kind of pepper deals. They always got these inventive ways to not shoot somebody, but they one step back from shooting, hit them with a pepper bag or something. And, the media just threw this big stink about, we shouldn't protect people. We should just let people crash the border, crash the party. But, all these people that are complaining, the media people, all of them have locks on their front doors, and they lock and deadbolt their front door in their house. They don't let anybody do a home invasion on them. So you wonder, so there's this highlight of this resistance that the Border Patrol put up. It was highlighted in the news, like, oh, shame, Trump, like this vicious barbarian. But then all of a sudden people started doing some research, and in 2012, because the Border Patrol, did you know the Border Patrol, anytime they use an act of force, they have to keep track of it. They have to. It's an incident. It's like if the Marysville Police or the Yuba County Sheriff or anybody, they have incident reports. They have to file paperwork, right? Keep track of things. So these guys did this research and said in 2012 they used tear gas 26 times, 2013 27 times, 2014 15 times, 2015 8 times, 2016 3 times, 2017 18 times. But other people have said, I was watching Glenn Beck, and he showed a border assault that was under Obama. If you don't know, you think it is happening today. It shows a border assault in Tijuana, and it shows tear gas being used, and it shows the media complimenting the Border Patrol and the great restraint they had, because they used tear gas and they didn't shoot anybody, and how wonderful they were, just people of restraint. And now, in fact, in 1 year, in the Glenn Beck show, they told how in 1 year there were 1,600 incident reports, in other words, any kind of force. They had to tackle somebody, they had to arrest somebody. They had 1,600 uses of force, some kind of force, in just a short period during 1 year, short period of time, under Obama. But nobody ever brought that up. Nobody ever complained. That's why you realize that there's just so much foolishness going on amongst the media. Now, I want to, let's see if I can find this. Let's see, where is this? Do you remember this William McRaven? He criticized President Trump because President Trump was criticizing the media. Now, I'm trying to find this, and I'm having trouble doing that. But anyway, McRaven, I first ran across McRaven. Here it is. Everything's coming together all of a sudden. So one day I was on the YouTube, and I ran across William McRaven, who was giving a talk at the University of Texas in Austin, and he was giving a talk for the graduating class, and he also had graduated from that school. And then he went on in the Navy, and then he became a Navy SEAL. Then he eventually became the head of the Navy SEALs. And there's a great talk that he gives, and I use it in the Yuba County Jail, and 10 things that he learned from the Navy SEALs that helped him be successful in life. It's a great talk. And so I enjoyed McRaven, but then I all of a sudden there was a big controversy over McRaven. He's now retired, I think. And McRaven began to attack Trump. And Trump had been, as he does frequently, calling journalists fake news. And then he diverted, when he was talking about journalists being fake news, he diverted and suddenly Trump did, and began to talk about William McRaven, who was a former head of the Navy SEALs. And he talked about McRaven because McRaven had begun to attack Trump verbally. And I don't know why he took him on, but it's interesting. You don't know really what these military people, what their political persuasion is. But McRaven had served under George Bush and then under Barack Obama. And McRaven began to attack Trump's criticism of the media and saying how the media was so important to American democracy and how Trump was being inappropriate in his criticism of the media. So I thought, what's going on here anyway? It's like, I would agree that the freedom of the press is important to democracy, but if the press isn't above criticism, right? And if they're not telling the truth, they should be upbraided for that. And then I wondered, what's the deal here? Because Barack Obama continually undermined the military and mocked the military. And I thought, why would McRaven be so devoted to the liberal way here? It kind of threw me. And so then, anyway, as McRaven was criticizing Trump, had been over a period of time, and Trump was talking about the media being fake news, then he referred to McRaven, and McRaven was actually in charge of the SEALs when they were looking for Barack Obama. You remember that? They were looking for Barack Obama. They couldn't find him. They couldn't find him. They couldn't find him. They were looking all over. I thought, how those guys, if they wanted me, they'd find me in 2 minutes. What are you going to say, something?
Osama bin Laden. You said looking for Barack Obama.
You know something? I always get those guys mixed up because they act a lot alike, right? Brenda Obama, President Brenda, and then Osama bin Laden. So remember, they were looking for Osama, and they looked here, there, they looked everywhere. And all along, one of our supposed allies, Pakistan, he was living in a mansion over there. Everybody knew where he was. He was like getting a latte down on the corner and picking up a taco over there. And they said, oh, there's Brenda Obama's buddy, Osama bin Laden. They looked and looked and looked. So Trump, I like this about Trump. It's like a businessman. I like the businessman approach. Like, what took you so long, right? What took you so long? And so he brought up to McChrystal like, hey, McChrystal's all attacking me about the media, but he says, I've always wondered, the earth isn't getting any larger, so you're telling me that you couldn't find Osama bin Laden? And so everybody got up in arms, right? Everybody got, oh, you're attacking. How dare you criticize the U.S. Army or the U.S. Navy or the U.S. Air Force? And I thought, wait a minute. It was Barack Obama who took the money away from the U.S. military. It was Barack Obama who fired like 200 different generals. It was Barack Obama who brought transgenders into the military. It was Barack Obama who fired or harassed all the chaplains, right? It was Barack Obama who said, like the shooting by the psychiatrist that was a Muslim psychiatrist and killed all those people, maimed them, and they wouldn't even give them, they called it workplace violence, you remember? Honestly, it's just like Barack Obama tried to totally dismantle the military. I thought, what's this? McRaven, what's how did he get a bean up his nose? Well, then retired General Stanley McChrystal. Do you remember McChrystal? You remember that, Wiki? Wiki, he knows what's going on over there. He's shaking his head. He said the military needs to have confidence in its leaders who send them into harm's way. We have certain things we want and demand of our leaders, McChrystal said on CNN's newsroom, and to a degree, there has to be a confidence in the leader's basic core values. He's talking about President Trump. We have to be able to believe in enough of what the leader represents to feel comfortable following them, and sometimes to our deaths. McChrystal, now do you remember McChrystal? Stanley McChrystal. McChrystal was known during the Afghanistan war for being outspoken and speaking his mind, and they gave him the command. The command over there in Afghanistan was struggling, and they gave it to Stanley McChrystal because they thought he could go over there and kick rear and win that war. So there went Stanley. But then, we had a little problem. Now, it throws me again. McChrystal, who commanded the Army troops in Afghanistan, suggested that Trump's chiding McRaven reveals his disregard for the U.S. military, despite the president's claims otherwise. Well, you don't have to claim to like the military. It's President Trump and President Trump only that has rebuilt the military in just 2 to 3 years, and been visiting the military, showing up for all the special things, right? Remember, he went in and met with the CIA, the FBI. So then they criticized him and said the president did not go to Arlington Cemetery for Veterans Day. Shame on him. Do you remember Barack Obama skipping all kinds of military stuff? Remember when Chris Kyle was shot, the American sniper, famous American sniper? He didn't even send anybody from the White House to go to his funeral. President, he said, didn't go to Arlington Cemetery for Veterans Day, and maybe that's honest, because if you really don't care, it would be dishonest to pretend that you do, McChrystal said. I think there's a certain honesty to what's happening right now. I thought, what's up with McChrystal? You remember what happened to McChrystal? You don't remember? Over there in Afghanistan? He said, we can win this thing in Afghanistan, but I need 30 to 40,000 troops. He got fired for speaking the truth. And he criticized Biden. Biden was an idiot, right? He criticized Biden, and he later had to apologize for it. He had to eat all his words, although he spoke the truth. You know, military guy after military guy has been undermined by politicians in the United States. Would you like the executive of the United States, former crack addict, Brenda Obama, backing you? Honestly, people, that guy was a total pervert. And so it says here, Trump in an interview with Fox News lashed out at McRaven after being asked by Chris Wallace about a remark the veteran Special Forces officer made in 2017 that the president's attacks on the media were the greatest threat to democracy. Honestly, McRaven, my view of McRaven is in the toilet today. This guy's so full of baloney. So Trump says, okay, he's a Hillary backer, Hillary Clinton backer and an Obama backer. And frankly, wouldn't it have been nice if we got Osama bin Laden a lot sooner than that? Wouldn't it have been nice, he said? This is Trump. You know, thinking of this, living in Pakistan, beautifully in Pakistan, said Trump, who took a medical, anyway. So what we have is McChrystal, he actually got fired by Barack Obama. He got pulled off the stage in Afghanistan and canned, and now he's like coming out supporting Obama. This is unbelievable. These people are so crazy, and you hear that? That's a bad sign right there. That means somebody else needs to talk for a minute. We'll be right back. We're going to start our second hour as soon as we cover some commercials, okay? Welcome back. You're listening to Live with Lou. We're out here at the Patriot, 1410 AM. If you want to dial us up, you can, 530-742-5555. This is a pro-choice show, So we may have to abort your call if it's inconvenient or you're the wrong gender. So we were talking about two of the top military leaders in the past decade. William McRaven, who was the head of the SEALs, and Stanley McChrystal, who was one of the top leaders in the U.S. Army. And McRaven got into it with Trump. He says, I stand by my comment that the president's attack on the media is the greatest threat to our democracy in my lifetime. I thought, McRaven, you are full of crap. When you undermine the people's right to a free press and freedom of speech and expression, then you threaten the Constitution and all of which it stands. I thought, where did Trump undermine the people's right to a free press? How about the right to an honest press? How about that? A right to an honest press. Trump hasn't curbed anybody's expression. What he's just, it's interesting. Liberals think they can say and do whatever they want, and then when you call them out on the fact that it's untruthful or deviant or screwy behavior, then you don't have a right to do that. Actually, the Constitution preserves both. You can say something that's totally stupid, but people have a right to say you're stupid, right? That's what the Constitution protects. But these guys, McRaven has lost his mind. I like McRaven. Go look at that thing on YouTube, his talk at the University of Texas. It's great. I use it in the jail. I have it on recorded. I use it, and everybody loves it. He's a great guy in some ways, but he's lost his mind. And it's interesting. Trump could not have won, I don't believe, the presidency without huge military support. A lot of leaders in the military and former leaders supported Trump. And did you know that many of the planes and a lot of the equipment that the U.S. had couldn't be used because they weren't even buying any parts for them anymore? They weren't funding enough military budget to even keep our equipment intact, operable. So we have McChrystal, who was canned by Obama. And in fact, McRaven says, I am a fan of President Obama. How can McRaven be a fan of President Obama? Brenda Obama, what did he do that was good for the military? I can't think of anything. The things that I know that he did, I know that there's things that are done that we don't know about, but the things that were done that were public, they were always undermining them, mocking the military. He says, I'm a fan of President Obama and President George Bush, both of whom I worked for. This is interesting, he says, I admire all presidents, regardless of their political party, who uphold the dignity of the office and have used that office to bring the nation together in the challenging times. I thought, well, I would agree with that. I think that's true. I feel that way. I admire all presidents, regardless of their political party, who uphold the dignity of office. I didn't feel like Clinton or Obama did, but I didn't hope they would drop dead. But he didn't seem supportive of the president, and it seems to me that the military right now is very supportive of the president and are thankful that they have a president that has their back and is giving them the support they need in terms of equipment, morale, money, da-da-da-da. I don't know. Every time I think I got something figured out, these people throw me a curve. I can't stay up with them. So I feel sad for the young people in America, kids, because we're treating them like little sissies. And I got a monthly report from a group I work with in Cambodia that is a large orphanage operation, and the founder of it, who fought in Laos during the Vietnam War, he wrote something about some guy visited over there from the U.S. and he had either adopted a kid or something. And he was talking about how much the government of the United States paid this guy to adopt this kid. In other words, they call it foster adopt. In other words, you take this kid out of the foster system, adopt him, they will pay until he's 18 years of age. They will pay you to do that and pay his medical, pay this, pay that, pay the other thing. And so Ted from Cambodia was commenting in an article on his monthly report about what's going on in their orphanages that it costs them about $50 a month and to raise an orphan. They have 2,000 orphans. And they send them to school, they take care of their medical, they feed them, they teach them about their culture, da-da-da-da. They do a good job, right? But they do it for $50 a month, and they find it really hard to get people from the West to donate enough money to support a kid. It's always a scrap. They have a huge budget, a couple $100,000 a month. And so he was comparing that to the amount of wealth that the government of the United States bestows upon a family to just take in a kid. And yet they have, he was just comparing the two, thought it was kind of odd. So he was commenting that in America, he said that this kid and came over with his adoptive father. He spent the whole time, they were kind of touring around these orphanages, and this whole time he just spent looking at his cell phone. And he was commenting, Ted was commenting about the orphans they have over there. They don't have cell phones, they don't have toys, and they're happy kids, but they all do chores. They scrub their own toilets, clean their own floors, feed the chickens. They have fish ponds in the back, so they raise a lot of their own food. They have gardens, and they have they dig a big pond and plant fish and have ducks in it, and so they take care of everything. The kids are all involved, and it's not like slave labor like we describe. Oh, I can't believe, ask a kid in the United States today, oh, do I have to do it now? Can I do it later? I wanted to watch this program on TV first. Well, John's coming over. Can I take the garbage out like at 3:00? But in Cambodia, kids are happy, and they are learning how to take responsibility, and they're happy to be, even though they're orphans, or maybe their parent can't take care of them, so they give them to the orphanage. They're happy to have a chance, food, health, da-da-da-da. They're happy kids. I've been there numbers of times, and the attitude there and in Vietnam, where I work with people that have had really tough things happen to them. Do you know something? While I was in Cambodia, Vietnam flooded. You probably didn't even catch that on the news. They had torrential downpours. And so the home that we have an operation in Saigon, it totally flooded. It wasn't the only home. They got like 2 feet of water came through that home, right? And so a lot of the kids' school books got flooded. And so a couple of the ladies that their stuff got flooded were traveling with me in Cambodia, and they were telling me how they were showing me on their smartphone how they're showing me photos of the water coming through. I thought, that's unbelievable. Now, in America, people be crying and calling FEMA and blaming somebody and all that stuff and stuff. But in Vietnam, you just, once the water goes down, you just muck the place out, sweep it out. And she showed me pictures. She just sent me some this morning of all her school books. She's going to the university, all with a hairdryer trying to dry out her school books. And no complaints, not one complaint. I can't believe it. No cry, no tears, no complaints, no whining, no pissing. Right? In America, oh my God, President Trump, it's all his fault. The fires are his fault. This is that. I mean, honestly, people, you gotta leave the States to see how stupid we've become over here, and weak and whiny and pussies. Honestly, it is sick. It's totally sick. You go to another country, it's so refreshing that people just are adults about tragedy. They just deal with it, right? They grab it, they deal with it, they don't make excuses, they don't blame a flood on the prime minister or president of Vietnam. They just deal with it. It's just refreshing. I love it over there because you travel with people, their parents have been killed, They died of a disease, died of a heart attack, and I said, "Oh, I deserve this, I deserve that. You owe me this. Oh, well, if it wasn't for that, it doesn't ever come up. I've never had any of those kids bring it up as an excuse. Over here, oh my God, I never knew my dad, so the whole world is coming to an end. Like, get over it. I told the kids in juvenile hall, I said, so your mom is a hooker. There's no place on the Walmart application or say Sam's Club or construction company to put, if your mom was a hooker, you get a special break and get hired, or you move to the front of the line. Your mom was a crack addict. Your dad was not faithful to your mother. You never knew him. He was always in prison. It's like, get over it. At some point, you just need to, like, hey, move on. It's your life. Make the most of it. The rest of the world is going on. You'd think that the United States, like, oh, man, everybody's got their hand out. Out at Glad Tidings, at the warehouse out there, Santos, that thing was all jammed up with relief goods. We were shipping stuff up into that fire zone. And so people were coming out there to pick up stuff there that were needy. We had people coming out, weren't even in the fire. They just, right, they were deceivers, right? Coming out, just cashing in. Total, we should have jack-slapped them and buried them out back. It's just like totally bummed me out. I wanted to, talking about kids, this was so inspirational to me. Let me read this to you. This gives you, do you ever wonder, I read that the education level of some of our founding fathers, I think, how were they so smart? Some of those guys were going to college when they were 16, 17 years of age. And really excelling, going to law school. It's just in primitive times in America. In 1861, in May, 9-year-old, catch this, 9-year-old, his name was John Lincoln. I already like this. Guy's named after President Lincoln. John Lincoln, Johnny Clem, ran away from his home in Newark, Ohio, and he joined the Union Army. This kid is 9. You think, oh my God, you can't now. If you allowed your kid to walk home from school at 9 years old, they'd probably CPS would jerk you up on child abuse, right? Even if you had just walk a few blocks. I always walked to school or rode a bike to school. And when I lived in East Marysville, and everybody just walked and rode bicycles. Now it's like, oh my God, if you don't have a ride to school, it's like your parents are reprobates. So Johnny Clem ran away from his Newark, Ohio home to join the Union Army, but found the Army was not interested in signing on a 9-year-old boy when the commander of the 3rd Ohio Regiment told him he wasn't enlisting infants in the Army and turned him down. Well, then Clem, this is a 9-year-old boy. This kid is amazing. Clem tried the 22nd, another group. He left the 3rd Ohio Regiment, and then he went to the 22nd Michigan Regiment next. And its commander told him the same thing. Then Clem tagged after the regiment, acted out the role of a drummer boy, and was allowed to finally remain. In other words, this is the Civil War times, or following the Civil War, and this guy just hung out, and they allowed him to remain. They did not enroll him in the Army, but he just served the camp. He just did cleanup duties. And finally, the soldiers pitched in out of their pay to pay him $13 a month. And it wasn't coming out of the government's pocket. It was coming out of the soldiers' pockets because they liked this kid, and they donated money towards his upkeep. So the next April at Shiloh, Clem's drum was smashed. He was playing a drum. He just learned how to play the drums. Is smashed by an artillery round, and he became a minor news item called Johnny Shiloh, the smallest drummer. A year later at the Battle of Chickamauga, he rode an artillery caisson to the front and wielded a musket trimmed down to his size. In other words, they built him a small musket so he could shoot somebody. Oh, my God, the liberals. Like, I can't believe you're like criminalizing this poor little boy. This is back where boys got to be real boys, right? And in one of the Union retreats, a Confederate officer ran after the cannon that Clem rode on, or rode with, and yelled, "Surrender, you little Yankee." And the kid shot the guy dead. I thought, hallelujah to you. So that won for Clem national attention and the name Drummer Boy of Chickamauga. This is a true story. You can read it. Look it up. I know you don't get taught this thing at Marysville High School or even any of the Marysville schools. They spend their time teaching you how you may be a homosexual or you may be a transsexual and you don't know it. That's what they spend their time teaching, or they teach that you came from a monkey. Clem stayed with the Army through the war, served as a courier, and was wounded twice. Oh, I can't believe it. If Donald Trump, honestly, we have adult guys getting shot, and the president gets blamed for it. He was wounded twice. Between Shiloh and Chickamauga, he was regularly enrolled in the service. He began receiving his own pay from the government and was soon after promoted to the rank of sergeant. At that time, he was only 12 years old, and he was a sergeant in the Union Army. After the Civil War, he tried to enter West Point, but was turned down because of his slim education. I don't know how much education a 9-year-old has. When he started out, he wasn't getting educated in the military. A personal appeal to President Ulysses S. Grant, his commanding general at Shiloh, won him a second lieutenant's appointment in the regular Army on the 18th day of December in 1871. And in 1903, he attained the rank of colonel and served as assistant quartermaster general. He retired from the Army as a major general in 1916, having served an astounding 55 years supporting the United States of America. General Clem died in San Antonio, Texas on the 13th of May, 1937, exactly 3 months shy of his 86th birthday, and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Now, I read that all because President Bush died yesterday at 94 years of age, and I think I read that he was a pilot, right, during World War II. He's a part of the Great Generation, or some people say the greatest generation, and flew some 58 missions, attack missions. Now, liberals think that's a terrible thing. Oh, I can't believe you bombed people and shot people. Honestly, Pete, it's a wonder the country is even surviving today. It's a wonder the toilets even flush in America today with the liberals in charge. So, but I appreciate the fact that I didn't always agree with President George Bush, but I respected him, and he was not only served with dignity and pride in World War II, but he was also head of the CIA at one time, and also I believe his ambassador to China. And he was a classy guy. I thought he was a classy guy, even though some of his behavior I didn't agree with as president. But hey, they don't all have to do it my way to be appreciated. So he joins his wife in the hereafter, as some people would say. So God bless the Bush family, and we pray for their comfort. And as I heard President at the break there when the news was on, Fox News, President Bush expressed his admiration of him. He loved his family and was a great guy. So, and I didn't get to read it, but I noticed on Facebook that the letter that he wrote Bill Clinton when Clinton was to take over is being heralded as a very classy, just a very, first-class letter that he welcomed the next president of the United States to the White House instead of saying something stupid or saying how they didn't like him. So there's that. I wanted to read, this is a letter to the editor, not to our local paper, but I've been doing some reading about the fires and about the victory of the environmentalists over our nation to take over the Bureau of Land Management, Environmental Protection Agency, the Forestry Department, and basically create a philosophy of rewilding. That's that the humans are the big problem. Even though we have national forests, we don't want humans to, national forests were designed for humans to visit, citizens to visit, and to preserve them from development. But now that the liberals are in charge of all these agencies, even though Trump is president, we have what they call the deep state that is doing everything that can to undermine the president. They have allowed forests, instead of to be thinned, where you'd cut down any dead tree and thin out forests and keep the underbrush to a minimum. So if you get a lightning strike in a storm like we're having today, or even a summer storm that would be dry, it would be somewhat wet, but everything would be dry, and you get a lightning strike, sets out the fire, it would just burn the floor a little bit of the forest, but it would not burn green trees. But today, with thousands and thousands of tons of thatch in the base of the forest, when we have these apocalyptic type fires today. Now, I know you're going to blame it on global warming, some of you idiots out there, but it is a man-made problem because we've actually, it's kind of like, I always appreciated at Glad Tidings when Live Oak Fire Department came down and said, Lou, we want to inspect all the buildings. And I'd say, I want you to inspect them. Please do a very thorough job and don't be easy on us. The reason was that I didn't want to burn down our own facility. So a lot of times people do stupid stuff, like they'll plug in a cord, run it around the door frame, run it under something, over something, cover it with a carpet, staple it to the wall, run a floor heater under their desk with paper stacked all around. And so the fire department come in and they'd say, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, unplug that, take that down, quit burning candles in here, right? They saved our life, I think, by preventive maintenance time after time after time. And then I get these fancy cards from Yuba County, even though I live in the city and I've never had a forest fire yet in Marysville. I don't think there's ever a history of a forest fire in Marysville, but I get these fancy cards saying how I need to clear out within 100 feet of my house to make sure a forest fire is not going to burn down my house. But I don't have 100 feet. I'd have to tear down the apartments to the right, the house to the left, and I'd tear down the fence and Taco Bell behind me. And so, the county, they're not smart enough to realize I don't need a forestry clearance card to explain to me how to survive a forest fire. So there's stupid stuff going on in California. And that's why we're having these horrific, apocalyptic, Armageddon, the fires of hell are burning. No one has seen anything like it. Why? Because environmentalists are idiots. And they are extremists. Not all of them, but they're extremists and have destroyed much of our economy in California, the timber industry, etc. And I wrote about it. If you want to read about it, I wrote about it at territorialdispatch.com, and you could read a couple articles about it. So I'm going to talk about this lady whose dad was an executive in the forest management operation of the United States government, wrote this letter in response to an idiot who was talking about environmentalism. She said, I'm not sure if you have met with the head of the Department of Forestry in San Francisco many times or with the government on such issues for more than 30 years. I am not sure if you've been behind the closed doors or have been a part of the years of emails or if you have worked in every part of California for 60 years or more on years on details regarding these exact issues. She's talking about how to maintain the forest because this lady was the daughter of a top forestry official who knew his way around the politics of forests. Not sure, she said, where you got your accurate, quote-unquote, factual, long-standing information. But with all due respect, my father has done all of that. He's 83 now, been involved in this all his life. I can share a couple of very important facts with you. The lookout towers for fires were built for a reason, to see fires in canyons where they start, not later when they're out of control or for hundreds of miles. Almost every lookout tower is shut down now and has been for years. They've been keeping dead and dying timber and dead brush on the floor of land for years now. Do you really realize what dead and dying timber and dead brush does for a small fire? It turns it into a huge raging fire. Dead, dying timber and dead brush is like pouring fuel on a fire that's already started. You add up all these factors, and in return you get this. Add wind, and you get raging fires that move fast, extremely fast. This is exactly what my father wrote to 27 newspapers, met with government officials and U.S. Forest Service for over 25 years. His article, I tried to find this article, I couldn't find it. His article called Act Now Before California Burns. He wrote this article because he knew this would happen if things were not taken care of. This is mismanagement of the land and also caused because of certain regulations. This is pure devastation and is not new. California has been on fire for years now because of these factors causing this devastation. As I said, thank you, Mr. President, for coming and showing the victims and everyone involved in this fire respect and compassion. You didn't have to come to California, but you did. You didn't have to start looking into this. You have a few other tiny issues on your hands, but you did come here. I am grateful. This is being looked at by the president. Here's to a start that others have ignored for years. Okay, we're going to go to a break. We're going to a break.
My fellow Americans, Melania and I are delighted to wish America and the entire world a very Merry Christmas.
At this time of year, we see the best of America and the soul of the American people. We see children packing boxes to brighten the Christmases of our brave men and women in uniform. We see families reaching out to neighbors in need. And we see communities coming together to serve one another.
In the season of joy, we spend time with our families. We renew the bonds of love and goodwill between our citizens. And most importantly, we celebrate the miracle of Christmas. For Christians, we remember the story of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph that began more than 2,000 years ago. As the book of Isaiah tells us, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." This good news is the greatest Christmas gift of all, the reason for our joy and the true source of our hope.
This Christmas season, we celebrate our blessings as Americans, and we pray for peace all over the world.
On behalf of Melania, myself, Barron, and the entire Trump family, God bless you, God bless America, and have a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
All right, welcome back. Well, at the break there, you heard a commercial for Trauma Intervention Program. If you're new to that, that's a program that started about 30 years ago in San Diego, California, and we started up here. I'm just looking here. Sorry, I got a little message here. Anyway, Trauma Intervention started up here in December of 1994. We were the 8th program in the United States of such a program. And so we respond in the Yuba Sutter counties, and sometimes we'll end up in South Butte County, to emergency scenes, 911 emergencies, at the request of law enforcement, fire, by county ambulance, or we even get called directly to the hospital by Adventist Hospital. And so we do about, 450 calls a year. Isn't that amazing? And so we provide emotional and practical support. I say we because I've been working with about 30 to 50 other people, depending on the time of year, how many folks we have, that respond out 24 hours a day, within 20 minutes of the time that we are requested. And usually we're there right at the beginning. We don't do counseling, long-term counseling. We're there right at the very beginning when things are most horrific and crazy and chaotic after a car crash or gunshot or drowning or heart attack, stroke. And we provide emotional and practical support to all those people that care about those that are something bad has happened to. And so this year we'll probably respond to about 450, but we've been very involved in the current fire crisis in Paradise because a lot of those folks evacuated down into this area, and we've actually done some death notifications when people have been found and confirmed dead, and done some notifications down in this area, their loved ones. So the reason I bring it up is I want to give you some news about trauma intervention, and also if you want to, it's odd, because we do a fundraiser this time of year, and so it was this time of year when we had the Cascade Fire as well here in Yuba County, and now we have the Camp Fire. They call it the Camp Fire in Butte County, and so right at the same, I know a lot of people are giving to the Paradise folks, which I'm happy about, and go ahead and don't be dissuaded by me. The more they get up there, they have great need, right? Entire town was wiped out. I don't know whether you're familiar with Paradise. I used to do some work up there. So it's actually hard for me to even get my mind around the fact that everything's gone and all those people have lost everything. But when you have liberals running the state, they say, oh, Lou, you shouldn't bring up politics when it's such a tragedy. Like, why not? Somebody caused it. It's like nobody's having problems blaming it on PG&E, right? So, but I want to mention that we've been having a fundraiser over the last 30 days, and we'll end towards the end of the year here, where you can contribute towards trauma intervention. The one thing nice about trauma intervention, if you ever donate to nonprofits, is it's interesting how much money actually goes to the work of the nonprofit as opposed to just maintaining the organization. So with TIP, we don't have to pay PG&E bills or office bills or rent an office or PG&E or insurance for employees or pay for administrative stuff. We have to pay for some office expenses like supplies, but all the money pretty much goes to training responders and for helping victims. So everything we do and did is free of charge. For instance, we have a book called the After the Fire book, and it's about a 20-page booklet that tells you how to get organized and figure out where to from here after a fire. Covers everything from how you're feeling, trauma, insurance, if your money is damaged, what things you should try to just saved, what things can be saved and how to save them, clean them, wash them, how to do it to just throwing stuff away and starting fresh, how to take an inventory for insurance. It's a great book. And in both the Cascade Fire and in the Camp Fire, it's been the hot item to give those to victims, whether it was at the Yuba City Fairgrounds or wherever. So if you want to support TIP, if you wonder, hey, how, like I had an organization call me yesterday and said, Lou, we want to give a few $1,000s to the Paradise people. How should we do that? So I didn't say, oh, give it to me. I said, oh, yeah, I'll find how to get it up there and make sure all of it gets to the people. But if you want to give to an organization that works year-round to not only the big disasters like the Cascade Fire or the Camp Fire, but to just daily disasters when something bad happens, like this last month, we just finished November, we did 57 calls in 30 days, almost 2 calls a day. And a number of were fire-related calls, but other ones were just car crashes, bad stuff that happens, right? So if you want to support a good organization of local folks in the Yuba Sutter areas that are setting aside their time to go out on these calls and be trained every month to do so, you can, the best way where we get most of the money, where we get all the money, is to just send a check to us at TIP at P.O. Box 645 Marysville, 95901. And that's TIP, P.O. Box 645 Marysville, 95901. You can go to, there is a PayPal Connect on the yubasuttertip.org. That's our website, yubasuttertip.org. You can go there and donate right off the website. Or there's a GoFundMe account called gofundme.com/tip2019. And you can give through there. Of course, GoFundMe doesn't do things for free. So there's lots of ways you can give if you want to help us, and we would appreciate that. We contribute about 40,000 hours of service a year to Yuba Sutter counties. If you use the national per hour volunteer rate of almost $25 an hour that it costs to run, support a volunteer, it amounts to almost $1 million, $987,600 in contribution to local citizens and emergency responders. So if you want to help us, we could use some help. Now, the other thing that's happening in relationship to trauma intervention is we received an anonymous donation of $5,000 to do what Orange County TIP has done for a number of years. They got, I think, a $20,000 donation or $18,000 donation from an anonymous donor down there to give to create a Secret Santa program. And the way it works is the Orange County Sheriff's Department would go out and they would just pull somebody over that they thought was needy, or maybe they knew someone in the community that was really struggling, and they would just go give them some money, some cash, right, with a tip person. And so they've been doing that in Orange County for a few years, and now a half dozen of the many tip programs around the country received a grant of $5,000 each to do this, to replicate that Secret Santa program. So we're doing that up here this year in partnership with the Yuba County Sheriff's Department. So Wendell Anderson, who's the new sheriff, he actually took over in August from retiring Sheriff Steve Durfer. So when I talked to Wendell Anderson, he said, I said, if we get this grant, would you like to do it? We'd like you to run it. And he said, oh, we'd love to do it. And so we got the money. And so we're teaming up with Yuba County Sheriff's Department. And so we're going to work on that this next week on how we're going to do it. And it could be just the deputies will kind of drive this, the patrol deputies, figure out if they met somebody recently that could use an extra $100 or $200 or $300, and we'll just give them the authority to go out and give it to them. And but along with that, the Yuba County Sheriff's Department applied for and got a grant from Walmart in Marysville, or we call it Lindout on Northville Road. They got a $1,000 grant for a Shop with a Cop program. So the Sheriff's Department asked Trauma Intervention to provide some volunteers to assist sheriff's deputies to assist pick out some children. The deputies the department will actually find children that could use a little hand, and will help them get outfitted for Christmas. So that's another program that's going. So there's dual programs going on in the month of December on behalf by the Yuba County Sheriff's Department. And it's being executed or carried out by the Deputy Sheriff's Association. They're handling the money. That's the association of the deputies. It's so they actually are getting the money, and then they will deliver it. So maybe you've got some money. Americans have a lot of money. I've never made very much money, but I consider myself wealthy. And so I'm helping on a program here, and then I'm helping in a program, in a backpack program in Vietnam that I'll tell you in a little bit about if you want to get involved in that. But around this time of year, people sometimes feel a spirit of generosity. If you're 50, 60 years old, maybe you got a lot of money in the bank, and you think, well, I don't need all this money to live out my life. I'm going to spread some joy, spread the love around. And so if you want to do that, you want to get involved, and you want to, it'd be cool if we could double the amount of money that we're going to give out on Secret Santa, and let these deputies go out and bless some people in Yuba County. Maybe we could get up to $10,000 instead of $5,000 towards Secret Santa. And so if you want to be a part of that, you can send a check over to the YCDSA, Yuba County Deputy Sheriff's Association, YCDSA. And you can just send that to YCDSA at 720 Yuba Street, YUBA Street, 720 Marysville, California, 95901. You can just send a check over and make it out to YCDSA and then put a note on it, Secret Santa, and it'll go towards that. Or if you want to donate towards the Shop with a Cop and help a youngster out for his Christmas or her Christmas experience, you can just say Shop with a Cop right at the bottom. So there you have it. You got 3 different ways you can help tip directly with just running the tip program. You can help shop the Secret Santa, which is going to be a real fun thing. It's been very successful in other tip programs. Or you could do Shop with a Cop, and you could send those checks. You could actually send a check to tip for Secret Santa as well, and we gave the money to the DSA, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, to handle that, and because the actual deliverers of the cash are going to be deputy sheriffs on patrol, and TIP may tag along to help them, but they're going to be in the thick of it. We're going to help with the Shop with a Cop as well. So, and the final thing on TIP is we're going to. Sometimes people say, Lou, I may want to get involved in it. How do we become involved? So we train once a year, and at the very end of February, starting on the 28th of February, we're going to start training a new batch of volunteers to add them to the veterans we have. So if you're interested, you can just go on our TIP website and send me an email, or you could just simply contact me or text me at 530-713-1838 and just say you're interested, and then we'll have a talk on the phone, and so you make sure to know what you're getting into. But you can go to our website at yubasuttertip.org and go to volunteer and see what it's like to volunteer and check it out. But you could call me or text me at 530-713-1838. The training is very interesting. I've never had anybody say, oh, Lou, this was boring, so boring, I couldn't hardly stand it. They always say this is the best training. Even government people who are social workers and stuff, victim witness workers, victim services workers, they say, Lou, this was the best training we've ever had. So if you want to serve your community and do something really relevant, what I always say, instead of watching all those dramas and cop dramas on TV and different hospital dramas and medical dramas, why don't you get involved in the drama? And be involved, go right out on the scene and make a difference. Instead of just sitting around every night just doing nothing and thinking you accomplished something by watching a television program. So anyway, that's that. Okay, Yuba Sutter Sheriff's Department, they're going to be having some fun this month. It's going to be cool. I can't wait to start handing out cash. I just think it's the greatest thing. Have you ever handed out, just felt God telling you to, or maybe you didn't know anything about God, you just think, I think I'm going to help that person over there, and help them, and you just think, oh, I did something right. They really needed some help, and so I did the right thing. So go do something, okay? So that's, it's always, the Bible says it's a lot more fun giving than getting. Did you know that? I found that to be true. Let me tell you about this. So I'm over here in Vietnam, right? And we're riding along. We did these road trips, and delivered all this resources to different people groups up there in Vietnam, and then brought in some stuff from Cambodia. So we were talking along there, and there's a lot of poor kids in Vietnam because they're communists, right? Wherever communism is, they have a really tough time, right? Even if they start to thrive like China, you have the really, really rich, like the president of China. This is communism, right? They're supposed to share and share alike, everybody the same, but somehow the president of China, President Xi, he got $500 million. How did that happen? And the Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein and her husband, is it Richard Bloom? They cashed in on that China deal somehow. How did they do that? They're buddies with old Xi. He used to be the mayor of Shanghai. Now he's the president of the whole thing. He got himself $500 million. But then you can take a trip out into the countryside of China, and people are cooking over just an open flame and have a dirt floor house out in China. You have the rich and you have the poor, not much of a middle class. Better than it used to be. So anyway, I was talking to my friend, and he said, Lou, we'd like to do a backpack project in Vietnam. And a lot of the kids, that are poor. Did you know that you have to pay to go to school in Vietnam? It isn't free. So a lot of folks in the rural areas are too poor to send their kids to typical schools, so there's these night schools that these little kids go to. After all the other kids get done, then they refill the school with a bunch of other kids and give them a special deal. But they don't have any school supplies. Over there, you got to buy your own supplies. So they need a little backpack, and so we're going to do this backpack project, and for about $5 a piece. Isn't that amazing? Because they make everything in Vietnam, right? A lot of the clothes you probably got on your body today are made in Vietnam, or your shoes you got on your feet. And so I said, hey, get a price on, let's do 1,000 backpacks. So we're going to do 1,000 backpacks, and they got a price of $4. It costs us about $1 a piece to deliver them, and then another group is going to fill them with stuff like hygiene items, toothbrush, toothpaste. A lot of kids don't even have a toothbrush. Did you know that? Your kid have a toothbrush out there? Toothpaste? Dental floss? A lot of these kids have never even been taught how to brush their teeth. They just lose them. And so we're going to load them up with some hygiene items and some pencils and pens and colors and good, the stuff that will go to school. So anyway, if you want to donate to Backpacks for Vietnam, you could send a check to Church of Glad Tidings, because they handle the money for me. They don't charge a nickel for administration. Church of Glad Tidings, Box 1630, Yuba City, California, 95992. Church of Glad Tidings, Box 1630. And you just put Backpacks for Vietnam, and we're going to do, just in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to raise $5,000, and I'm going to send it over there, and before Christmas, we're going to deliver 1,000 backpacks to kids that, you think, oh, it's a communist country. Do you know all over, it's interesting. We got this is the first president in a while where we've been able to say Merry Christmas. Did you know that Obama wouldn't say Merry Christmas, right? And so over there in Vietnam, communist country, there's Merry Christmas trees going up all over the place, Merry Christmas. And so we're going to bless these kids with 1,000 backpacks, kids that are really poor kids. And some other groups are going to fill them, pay to fill them, maybe $2 or $3 to fill them. We're going to buy all the stuff there. No importing stuff, no shipping costs, no administrative costs. We're going to do this. They're going to crank those backpacks. They sent me a photograph of the backpacks yesterday on Viber, and we got this thing going on. So if you want to help in a foreign country, some people say, oh, I don't want to help in a foreign country. We waste billions of dollars in the United States giving money that gets sidelined into a dictator's pocket. Doesn't even make it to people. With the projects I'm involved in, everything gets, whether I'm shipping a container to Cambodia of food, or whether I'm doing a backpack project or whatever. Oh, by the way, on this trip we bought 150 of those cheater glasses, off the dollar store glasses. And so we met with all these Cham pastors. Cham typically are Muslim, but we met with all these pastors. We bought them all dinner and their wives and them. And there were no turkeys in Vietnam, right? It was Thanksgiving, so we had duck. Closest thing we could figure out to a turkey was a duck. And went to this place. They cooked us all this food. And we brought a big box of those cheater glasses out, and you should have seen those people are so thrilled. Because your eyes just get bad over there in the rural areas that people don't have any health care, and you just can't see anything. So they're always got the book, Bible, they're holding it up within 3 inches of their face. So we got them backed off to like 18 inches with some cheaters on, right? So they're looking good. They're all happy. So anyway, if you want to help with backpacks, we're going to make some kids smile over there and help equip them to go to school, and that's in Vietnam. And so you can just send that to Church of Glad Tidings, Box 1630, Yuba City, 95992. Just put on your check, Backpacks for Vietnam. All right. So now I want to talk a little bit about the local election. And there was an article while I was gone. It said Marysville School District bond misses the mark. Now, some of you people thought that passed because more people voted for it than voted against it. But with the local school bonds now, because voters said that used to be you needed 2/3, But if the people had the ability to change that down to 55%. So they did that a few years ago. So the school bond, they wanted to raise $74 million, take more of your money, and debt you for 30 more years to build more buildings. Total waste of money. It isn't that they don't need occasional buildings or repair things, but the way they go about it is the most wasteful black hole of wasting money there is. $74 million. To pay that back, no person in their right mind would borrow money and pay back double what they borrowed. That's exactly what Marysville Joint Unified School. They have no conscience over there, or these school districts have no conscience of the tax dollars. You know what's fascinating? Government doesn't have any conscience. They say it's their money. It's not their money. It's the taxpayers' money. But because they're spending someone else's money, they are not cautious of how they spend it. So it was going to take $150 million to pay back $74 million. Is that ridiculous or what? That's the most stupid thing, financially ignoramus thing I've ever heard of doing. And then they're going to take that money and they're going to spend 20 to 30% more to build buildings that you could have built by the private sector with competitive bidding. Because in government bidding, they favor the unions, and so you end up paying 20 to 30% higher wages than you could if you just went out to the open public sector bidding. You hear that noise? It's another sign that we need to take a break. So I'll pick this back up on the back side of this hour. I guess we got one more hour. We got one more hour. Gone fast today. All right, we'll be right back. Well, we're back for our last hour, and then at noon, if you're new to this, there's a sports talk group coming on. They do a nice job. Entertaining guys, if you like sports. But we have an hour left here, so I was going to keep on with a topic of local election. So when I say local, for me, I'm more knowledgeable about Yuba Sutter elections, but I know Oroville successfully passed an increase of sales tax after just the second attempt to raise money up there because the mayor said we're going broke. We're going to go bankrupt because we can't pay the pensions that these politicians agreed to. We can't pay these pensions with CalPERS, they call it. And so I was mentioning before we went to a break that Measure J in Marysville, or in Yuba County, was the Marysville Joint Unified School District bond measure to fund repairs and improvements to the schools or district's aging infrastructure. I want you to think about something. A lot of times I try to personalize things to see whether I think it's the reasonable thing to do. So I want you to think about you're going to build a big building. Maybe you have a business, you want to expand, or you're going to build a new house. Would you look for the most expensive way to build it? Or you determine the quality you want, and then you look for the cheapest way, the least expensive way to get the best quality, right? So let's just not go cheap on quality. Let's build a top quality building. So when you decide the qualifications, the regulations, the materials, the structural steel, all that, you determine what you want. Do you go out and find the most expensive way to put that up labor-wise, or do you get bids and get competitive bids to determine the most efficient, cost-effective way to put up the building you want? House, commercial building, whatever. I think most people would agree they would look for a reputable builder that could build it as cost-effective as possible, right? I remember Trump said when they moved the embassy from over to Jerusalem, which was everything's controversial with the media, but they did it for very few dollars. Could have been millions of dollars. I think I don't know what it cost, but I can't remember. It was just a small portion of what it could have cost. But because Trump's a businessman, he looked for the most efficient, effective way to get it done, fast. And so, but when you're building government buildings, schools, you think, oh, well, they're just built better than the average building. No, they're not. Contractors, you just show them the blueprints. I was involved somewhat in the construction industry for a number of years. Architects prescribe the blueprints, the quality, the paint, the type of door handles, the superstructure, how thick the concrete's got to be. Everybody's playing by the same rules construction-wise. So the problem is in government buildings, including schools, you have to pay what they call Davis-Bacon Act prevailing wages, which bumps the cost, and they waste 20 to 30% more money than they would have to if they just went out to a straight competitive bid. But with the government is bought out by unions, and then they set what they call a prevailing wage, which means they say all the other contractors who are not union have to pay the union wage instead of just the opposite. The unions the reason is unions cannot compete with the rest of the population, the rest of the contractors. So it's unfair competition, right? And so who gets screwed in the whole deal? The taxpayer ends up getting screwed. So not only are we paying back $2 for every $1 borrowed, which is just crazy, but we're wasting another 20 to 30% of that $74 million in extra payroll that we wouldn't have to do. That's why you should always, always, always vote against school bonds. They are a total sucking sound on the economy of the city, of the county, or the district, whatever it is. The second thing is measure. We have a thing called that's Measure J. Then in Yuba County, outside the cities of Wheatland and Marysville, we have Measure K. Measure K passed. I don't know the exact number of votes. It doesn't really make any difference, but it passed, I think, with about, I don't know whether it had 53. It passed. The majority of people agreed that they bought the idea that if we don't have this money, we're going to be short on police and fire. That's the argument they bought. That was the argument that was sold to them, that you're probably going to drop dead because they're not going to be able to get there fast enough. Now, let me just say this. You probably don't, people just don't like the truth, right? So the other night we had one of the top medical guys in the area and speaking at trauma intervention. And I always thought that CPR, CPR, say, everybody's got to learn CPR. It's so effective. It only saves like 1 out of 100. Did you know that? Yeah. Somebody goes down, you do CPR on them, maybe 1 out of 100. And so that was confirmed the other night again. He said less than 1 out of 100. And this guy's been in the business for 30 years, and I think he could count on one hand the amount of people he'd saved, and he's doing CPR all the time on people. So you think, oh, well, Lou, the guy that was saved or the gal that was saved is worth it to them. I said, fine, that's okay. So anyway, I don't even know why I was telling you that story. Do you remember? I don't know why I was even telling you the story. So let me see where I want to go with this. I was going to tell you this about this election. So the Measure K, the big pitch on the Measure K, up and down the state, whenever they want to raise more money for pensions, they don't want to have to get a 66.6, in other words, 2/3 vote, 66.6 or 66667. They don't want to have to get that big of a majority. They don't think they can pull that off, so what they do is lie about it. And that's what happened in Yuba County. They lied from the very beginning, and they also took tax dollars to lobby taxpayers to give them more tax dollars. That's against the law. But government is not interested in themselves obeying the law. That's just for small people like you and me to obey. The laws are for you and me to obey, not for government. So they violated, and they spent, I don't know whether we'll ever find out, a couple $100,000 or more of our tax dollars to lobby each one of us convince us to pay more money out of our wallets because they've spent the money recklessly and they promised, financial promises to employees that they cannot keep. They cannot afford to pay the pensions. And so instead of just being honest about that, and of course they know if they were honest and they mentioned the P word, which is pensions, they knew that people would vote against that because most people don't have those kind of benefits themselves. So they figure, well, why should I take more money out of my checking account, my bank account, to give them pensions that the private sector could not afford to have? Why do that? Why should government people get better pay, better pensions, right? So they don't mention the P word, and then they violate Proposition 218. It's a law, and Proposition 10, I think it was, saying that if you want to raise taxes for a specific purpose, you have to get 2/3 vote, not just 50% plus one. So the way they drafted the argument was wrong, the ordinance was wrong, the argument was wrong, the way they advertised it was wrong, using our own money was wrong. They lied about it, lied. Your next door neighbor, your little, your fellow supervisors BS'd you all the way through. And so they got a majority of the people to vote for the Measure K to raise taxes, sales taxes, by 1% from I think it's 7.25 to 8.25, right? That's what they did. So everything about that campaign was screwed up and a violation of the law. So our hope is those that opposed it, and so, you know, a lot of with liberals, you know, it's amazing. A lot of these guys that are in our government, running our government, claim they're conservatives, but they're not. They talk conservative, but they vote liberal. And so liberals, when they can't win the argument, then they just call you a name. They'll call you a body part, or they'll call you a racist or something, right? And so in this case, they said, you know, if you vote against this, you hate police and fire, which is just ridiculous. It's just absurd and ridiculous and offensive. But that's the best they do because they couldn't really argue the truth, which is that this money is going to go to bail out their pension fund because they can't afford to pay the commitments they've made. And because they like to stay in office, and so they promise the unions whatever they want if the union will put them back in office, your supervisors. So the interesting thing I noticed when right before I was leaving for Vietnam is that the Yuba County Water Agency, which took over the Bullards Bar Dam power and water revenues in 2016, we brought up during the campaign, hey, if you need more money, Yuba County, for police and fire, sheriff and fire, why don't you quit giving the Yuba County Water Agency $500,000 a year in property tax revenues, which normally would go towards sheriff and police, or sheriff and fire. And, of course, they didn't ever respond to that because then they have to say, well, there are ways that we don't need this tax. There's ways around this. We could use our budget differently. So instead of addressing that, they waited to after the election, and now I noticed an article in the Appeal Democrat saying, and I think it maybe came out in the Territorial as well, they did a news release saying, Yuba County Water Agency said, you know, we've noticed that we've been taking $500,000 a year out of the Yuba County property tax, and we're now reconsidering that, but it's going to take, in other words, it's going to really take a lot of work. We're going to have to draft ordinances and change things. And in other words, they're BS. It's just like, I hate to use the word BS. I always want to say the word, but the Big Kahuna says here we're going to get sued. But it makes me so angry because they're dishonest. They're people I know. In fact, I kind of like some of them, but they're dishonest. And I don't like people that are dishonest. And so instead of like having this dialogue, I get a kick out of it. When we opposed Measure C at the city, John Nicoletti says, well, you know, if you or some of the city council, you guys always say no. but you don't put any of your own ideas on the table. Well, actually, we gave a whole list of recommended changes to the city of Marysville that could have saved raising taxes in Marysville. But as long as you don't agree with the government on raising taxes, then you're just being a negative person, naysayers, and you never have any good ideas of your own. Well, one of our ideas was to take this $500,000 a year that we were given to the Yuba County Water Agency when they had $100 million in reserve and put that money towards the Yuba County Sheriff's Department. But they didn't respond to that. They don't want, you guys don't have any ideas of your own. You're just naysayers, negative. Well, now, Randy Fletcher, I don't know whether he's chairman of the board. Recently, he's been doing all the talking over there. He said, well, it was just a matter of timing. You know, we just got all this money in 2016. I said, all right. Well, why don't you then, since you got $100 million in reserve, why don't you give them $1 million a year towards the Sheriff's Department? Because we've been paying since 1958. I think we've been paying taxes towards the Yuba County Water Agency. So they said, well, before when PG&E was getting all the revenue and managing the dam, we couldn't manage our own department without those property tax revenues. Well, fine. That's fine. In fact, the department back in the day, had a director and 2 secretaries. Now, you can't even count how many cars. When you drive over there at 12th and F, where they're located in that fancy building, they got money pouring out their ears, and they just hiring one person after another. Look it up on Transparent California, see how much those people are getting paid over there. I think their electricians are making $130,000. You know somebody working up there, don't you? Yeah, Wiki Man's shaking his head. Yes, I got a supportive person right across the glass here. He's shaking his head up and down. Guy's making between $100,000 and $200,000 up there. People, those are the best jobs in the county, working for the Yuba County Water Agency. They don't even want to have it's a dirty word having the word county in there. They call themselves the Yuba Water Agency now. So they could have decided, instead of raising these taxes, they could have decided to pay back $1 million a year out of Yuba Water Agency to just reimburse the county for funding them all these years until they could get to the point where they get all the money, right? You see, the Yuba Water Agency doesn't consider itself a part of the county. Did you know that? And they don't think that they owe the county a thing. Even though when they get to the small print, they whisper that the fact that the Yuba County citizens voted to indebt themselves, put out all these bonds to build that big dam called the Bullards Bar Dam. But then they say, well, we just been running this all on our own. We had nothing to do with the people. Although all along, since 1958, they've been taking money, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year from the property taxes that could have been going to the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department, right? Wouldn't you have liked to known that before you voted on Measure K? I tried to tell you about that. I told you on the radio, and I wrote about it in the newspaper, but sometimes other people are more persuasive than old Lou is. So all of a sudden, then right after the vote, they come out and say, Shazam, Shazam, like Gomer Pyle used to say, Shazam. We just discovered that maybe there's some money over here that we could help the Yuba County Sheriff's Department with. We may be going to just, and then they said, oh, it's a big deal. We got to reverse the ordinance that gave us that money. You know something? They just make stuff sound, you ever had somebody say how hard something is and it ain't hard at all? It's just somebody, a paper pusher over there. They got a whole legal department, $1 million legal department in the county over there, right? Draft up some deals. Do you know that the people voting on the change of this $500,000 a year from going to Yuba Water Agency and sticking with the county, keeping it in the county, the same people are going to vote on the water agency are going to vote as supervisors. Did you know that? It's like saying, it's like arguing with yourself. And you say, let's see, should I take this $100 bill out of my left pocket and put it in my right pocket? I don't know. I don't know. I may drop it on the way over. It's a lot of work. Complicated. Reaching in with I got to be ambidextrous. I got to be reaching in with my left hand and then putting it in my right hand and then putting it in my right pocket. Very, very difficult, complicated move, right? It's like you cannot be retarded and pull off this move. But Randy Fletcher said it's very complicated to undo something that was done by bureaucrats many, many years ago. Now we have to undo it, and you never know. The ink may not dry. We may run out of paper. The computer may break down. We may have a virus. And we can't figure out how to write this up. We may have to call a consultant in. Did you know that? We pay people $100, $150, $200, $250, $300,000. But then when they need to make a big decision, they call in a consultant, and then we got to pay another person because they're not smart enough to make a decision. So this is a very, very complicated changing of the ordinance. It may take years to do, and it wouldn't suffice to help right now. It wouldn't be good enough to help right now. In fact, there's no discussion, publicly at least, of instead of paying $500,000, keeping the money, of actually paying money back, like reimbursing, right? Say, hey, it's like your kid. It's like a kid being funded to go to college by his poor mama. And he goes to college and he gets an athletic scholarship, and then he's playing in the NBA. And he said, Mama, I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to buy you a big mansion and a new set of wheels, right? That's called reimbursing for funding a good idea, her kid. So we funded a good idea. This taxpayers of Yuba County have been paying, voted to be indebted. And they say, oh, well, hindsight, PG&E paid all that. PG&E nearly went bankrupt a few years ago. Did you know that? And so they say, oh, well, PG&E, it was a sure deal. The people of Yuba County never risked anything. Honestly, you people that came into Yuba County, they're cashing in on the Yuba County waters. You weren't here when that all happened. You don't know Jack Diddley. You can't find your historical butt with both hands. Filling people full of crap, just dishing the crap out. It's like my boots nowadays, they're always wet, and people pissing on them and telling me it's raining over there at Yuba County Water Agency. It's disgusting. So our hope is, with this Measure K, that the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association will decide to sue the county of Yuba for ripping off the taxpayers. You think, have you ever been ripped off? I've been broken into. I've been stolen from. I've had some of the businesses that advertise on this show rip me off. I'm not on my show, but on this KMYC. Total thieves. And car business in town. Total thieves. And just rip me off. I've had people rip me off. I don't like it when the government rips the people off. Do you know that? I don't like that. And I don't like it when they take advantage of people that don't have the funding. What they did is if the supervisors and Robert Bendorf wanted to take their own personal money and hire Crystal Martin to take money out of the poor taxpayers of Yuba County, then God bless them. But to have them get into our bank account and take taxpayers' money, $200,000, and then complain we're out of money, and then they take $200,000 or $250,000 of that money and to deceive the taxpayers, they're just political whores. That's what they are. They're political whores. That's all they are. I don't have hard feelings about it, and I know some prostitutes. That doesn't mean they're bad people all the way through. I don't agree with some of their behavior. That's all. I'm not trying to judge them. I'm just saying they're out there. And these people are political whores. They sell off the county. They sell off the money to the county, to the unions, and let the unions run the county. And then they act like they're running the county. They're not running the county. The unions are running the county, right? And in fact, the supervisors should be making the decisions over the county, not Robert Bendorf. Robert Bendorf is the county administrator or the city administrator, the city manager, they're employed by the representatives of the people. That would be the city council or the supervisors. Those men and women, if they don't have the beef to study the issues and make the right decisions, they shouldn't serve. If it's a job is too much for them, they don't have the time to study the issues, research it, do the homework. They need to get off those boards and go back to doing what they were doing before. If they think, a lot of them, I know what they're doing. They're not doing their homework, and they're going in there, and at the bottom of each agenda item, there's a staff recommendation. And they take that staff recommendation and they just go along with it because they don't have any better idea. It's interesting. Most of these elections are popularity contests. So many times we don't end up with the smartest duck in the flock. You end up with just a duck that looks good. And then they get up there and they can't quack straight. And so they just screw things up and do stupid stuff or do stuff that is going to benefit someone that they like, right? So they can get some more votes. That's what that's all about. So what I call them is political whores. That's what's going on here. And so the county of Yuba just got ripped off. If you voted for it or you didn't, both groups got ripped off financially by them stealing county taxpayer money and promoting Measure K. Now, my hope is that Howard Jarvis people will sue the county and see if we can help the entire, most of these elections, these sales tax or money-raising elections, because all these ballot measures, all of these had to do with one problem. The pension program in the state of California is corrupt. That means there are people doing dishonest things there. They are ripping off cities and counties, and they are ripping off ultimately the taxpayers. The taxpayer is the ultimate loser. The politicians aren't losing; they're winning. Those people walk away from their jobs after they screw the public in overcommitting to these pensions. They walk away retiring. And did you actually know that the supervisors of Yuba County get a retirement? Isn't that unbelievable? Do you think they'd have the integrity and credibility to reverse that? Vote that down? Probably not. They probably not. Do you think? Oh, is it over? Okay, we got 30 more minutes, but we got to take a break here. All right. Well, we had that commercial for Little Women, and I think they started last night for the first night, and you should go. I'm going to go. And I always love actually the plays at Glad Tidings, or what they call it, the Creative Light Theater, actually. And they've been going on for like 25 years. And nothing against any of the other. I like all kinds of the dramas. I've been to Yuba College dramas. I've been to a variety of places around town. Good dramas. The dramas out at Glad Tidings are tops. They don't take a second seat to anybody. And I mentioned Dave Grinnett's Construction. Dave has, for the entire over 2 decades, his crew and himself have helped, and crews out at Glad Tidings have built the stages, which are amazing. The whole setting, all the sets. And Leslie Greenwich, his wife, is the director. And a lot of the plays are originals. This one isn't an original, of course, Little Women. But if you want some to entertainment, and it's free, and it's a lot of fun. And so it's easy to get to. You don't have to drive all the way to Sacramento. And so go out to 1179 Eager Road, Church of Glad Tidings campus, or Embassy of Heaven campus. It says Church of Glad Tidings on the sign out front. And then Building 100. And have a good evening. And have some good entertainment that your kids will enjoy. So, okay, I wanted to I saw this about Social Security. I've always thought Social Security was a total scam, which I believe it is. I think they probably started with good motives, but then politicians got a hold of the funds, and they ripped off the funds. So this was a write-up about Social Security. I just want to cover that says a woman dies. Oh, by the way, look, I don't know whether you take the local paper or you take any paper, but glance at the obituaries every once in a while and note the ages. Because I do this, we do about 35 to 40 calls a month for trauma intervention. So I take all the reports of the calls we do. About 65% of the calls involve a death. And most of the people are younger than I am, I notice. And it's a sobering thought and makes me grateful for the years I've had granted to me to be involved in cool stuff around the world. But a lot of people never even make it to retirement. They have to pay all those years towards Social Security, and their boss, if they're employed, has to pay. But it's up to like 15% of their income. And but it's not like me. If the money that I've put aside, in addition to Social Security, because I didn't have any retirement from a company, that's my money. So if I die, I get to give that to an organization or a person and give them that as a gift. But with Social Security, you cannot do that. So if you don't make it to 65, there's a chance that you worked for 40 or 50 years and gave 15% of your money to the government, whether you were self-employed or employed, because part of your paycheck is removed, like half of 15%, and then the employer has to match that. Well, in the payroll, it's all considered the cost of hiring you, right? So it says a woman dies at age 65 before collecting one benefit check. She and her employer paid into the system for almost 50 years, and she collected zero. Keep in mind all the working people that die every year who were paying into the system and got nothing. Just think of that. All those people could have been putting that money into a retirement, and then when they die, they could have given that to their spouse, or they could have given that to their children, or a nonprofit, or whatever, right? But in this case, the government just takes more of your money. It walks away with your assets because you didn't live long enough. And the way this system was created, back when it started, life expectancy was a lot less, and they didn't expect many people to make it to 65. They knew they weren't. And so these government people have mismanaged the money and stolen the money from the system, Social Security system, for decades. So that's why they say it's going broke. It's not like there is a problem with there's not enough workers now to support the many retirees because people are living longer. So, but if they would have put the money aside and invested the money, which they didn't invest any of the money, it's just a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is where the people ahead of you put money into it, and now they're getting paid to be retired by the people behind you. They're not getting paid off investments. They're getting paid off new contributors to the system. That's what they call a Ponzi scheme, named after Charles Ponzi. You can look up his life. He went to prison for this same scheme that's being used by politicians. You remember what I said earlier? Government can break the law and violate ethical principles all day long and never get in trouble for it. You try it and you'll go to prison. If you created the Social Security system, recreate it, and convince your friends to give you money, and you're going to give them back money for the rest of their life, but you were going to get money from new people all the time, you weren't investing in their money, that's called a Ponzi scheme. You'll go to prison for that. So the real reason for renaming our Social Security payments is so the government can claim that all those Social Security recipients are receiving entitlements. Have you ever heard that before? You're entitled. It's an entitlement. It's not an entitlement. People paid into that, and they paid into a lot. If you put 15% of your money into investments, you're going to be a rich person. So they've now redefined Social Security payments. So you're in the same category, or me. I receive Social Security as welfare recipients and food stamp recipients. By changing the name, it gave them a means to refute this program in the future. It's free money for the government to spend under this guise. The Social Security check is now or soon will be referred to federal benefit payment. Watch for that change, or may have already happened and we didn't pay attention. You think, oh, who cares? It's just money. Well, it just means the benefit. Like, I don't consider the money I've set aside for my retirement that I use now as a benefit. It's not a benefit payment. It's not an entitlement. It's my money. I set it aside. I happen to make some right choices or hire some people that made right choices. So now I have money available to me. So they call it a federal benefit payment. It's not a benefit. It's our money paid out of our earned income. Not only did we contribute to Social Security, but our employers did too, etc. So check this out. If you average $30,000 a year, or over your working life, $30,000, that's close to $180,000 you invested in Social Security. Okay, that's a lot of money. If you calculate the future value of your monthly investment in Social Security, or $375 a month, including both you and your employer's contributions, at a meager 1% interest rate compounded monthly. In other words, if you only earned 1%, which is horrible, I've always earned way above that on my investments. 1% compounded monthly. After 40 years of working, you'd have more than $1.3 million saved. If you just made $30,000 a year, that kind of describes me, because I never made that much money, very much money. But I've always invested some, right? Because I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of money to live on when I wanted to do something else other than just punch a clock. So this is your personal investment, $30,000 a year. So you put aside $180,000 over the years. So upon retirement, if you took out only 3% a year from that $1.3 million, you'd receive almost $40,000 a year, or $3,277 per month. Now I wonder, all you guys collecting Social Security, I don't even. Once they take out my Medicare, I don't even collect $1,000 a month off that, right? After all that money, I worked all those years, right? I worked probably 50 years. But if you would have just put that money into an account and got 1% interest rate, and then you cashed in and you took out only 3% a year, you could take out $3,277 a month. I don't think anybody's collecting that much off Social Security. So it says it's almost 3 times today's average Social Security benefit payment. If you're earning $1,230 per month, that's average. I'm below average because I did a lot of volunteer work and didn't make that much money. I paid in every quarter, but I just didn't make that much money. So your retirement at $1.3 million would fund 33 years, or until you're 98 if you retire at 65. I retired at 62. In other words, I cashed in at 62 when I could, because I didn't have any confidence I was going to live to 98. I was going to cash in, get come in those Obama bucks back as soon as I could. I feel good about it. So just think about that. Just think about it. That's your Social Security system. And it's a scam. It's just a total scam, and it's a sad situation. Now, let me just see here. We got a few minutes. I want to talk about this bus driver. There's all kinds of stories, coming out about the Paradise losses. And as a story, when I was seeing photographs of these cars that were abandoned on the road, burn up, and buses, and I thought, oh, what happened to those people? Did they run? Did they hitch a ride? What did they do? So this article says, hero bus driver saves 22 kids from wildfire. And when I read about this, I thought, you remember the Hurricane Katrina, when Ray Nagel, remember the mayor? They had over 150 school buses or something like that down there, and they could have loaded up all those people and drove them over to Houston, people that didn't have rides. Because down there in New Orleans, they're all got the welfare entitlement mentality, so everybody was waiting for the government to somehow bail them out, but Ray Nagel didn't have brains enough to do that. So this bus driver has been, up in Paradise, has been called a hero for saving 22 kids from the enormous fire. So the flames were burning up against Ponderosa Elementary School, and 41-year-old Kevin McKay knew that something had to be done. So he loaded up children and teachers, and he ordered everyone to evacuate and loaded them up. He ripped his shirt into rags and doused the chunks with water of the shirt and handed them to the kids to put over their face so they wouldn't smell. The smoke was so thick it was choking the kids. Mary Ludwig described the scene as total Armageddon as the inferno blazed around the Ponderosa Elementary School. She said it looked like they were just going to burn up. As the children were loaded into the bus and driven out to safety, they hit gridlock. There was nowhere to go. Just like when we evacuated for the spillway, there was nowhere to go. You sat in line. Many of the youngsters started to choke, complain that they were feeling tired, dizzy. They were getting a carbon monoxide treatment. The flames were encroaching on the bus. McKay and the teachers contemplated abandoning the bus and proceeding on foot, but the fire was too hot around them. The staff did everything they could to comfort the children as the bus crawled along the jam-packed highway. Fourth grader, I can't have time to do all the details. Anyway, they noticed cars starting to crash into each other as people became overwhelmed by the smoke. In fact, one car collided with the bus. Ludwig, this teacher, said that they saw a teacher along the road. Another person, a woman, disoriented along the road, and they stopped and picked her up, and she was actually a teacher. Teacher said she thought she was going to die. And that the pair, the Ludwig and this other teacher, began to pray together on the bus. Now, over at the Yuba County Fairgrounds, the Red Cross forbid people to pray. Just, God damn it, you can't pray. We don't care whether God's involved in this or not. You can't pray to God in a Red Cross operation. That would be enough to me to never give to the Red Cross again. Rude people, darn, they're rude. And so this couple, they thought, this seems a little serious. The paint's peeling off the bus. The cars are crashing into each other right in front of us. We can feel the heat of the fire. Let's pray. Eventually, they reached the end of the inferno, and the children were reunited with their parents. Everyone escaped unharmed thanks to the brave actions of their driver. Miss Ludwig said, we had the bus driver from heaven. Thank you, Jesus. You know, sometimes God just provides a way. When it doesn't seem to be the way, there's a way. That guy he had a backbone. He wasn't probably a liberal guy. The devastation across the town is staggering, etc. Place is lost. The place is a total wipeout. So anyway, I say, way to go, Mr. McKay. Proud of you, and saved those children's lives. Amazing deal. And then finally, I noticed that in Indonesia, there was a rotting whale. Did you read the story? A rotting whale. Big old whale. And it was all putrefied and decomposing. And so some of these environmentalists started to dig around inside the whale. It washed ashore in eastern Indonesia. Now, if the greatest polluters in the world are Indonesia and China. Did you know that? Indonesia is the fourth most populous country in the world. It's the largest Muslim country in the world. So, but China and Indonesia, like when I was in Vietnam recently, I'm telling you, we went down to Tonle River, and they just dumped their garbage right in the river, right? They dump their sewage in the river. Indonesia does the same. They dump their stuff in the ocean. It just float. We're out there in the river, man, stuff floating around the river, styrofoam. It's just ridiculous, right? We think in America, we got like 5% of the world population. We're going to change the world by stopping using a straw. Dead whale washed in the shore. And so the researchers from the Wildlife Conservation Group, I'm always suspect of the group that they might have thrown stuff in the fish's belly just to make it look bad, right? But they said that fish, or that whale, they had 5.9 kilograms. Most of you and all of us know what that is because you sell drugs. But it's 13 pounds. There was 13 pounds of plastic waste in the animal's stomach, containing 115 plastic cups, 4 plastic bottles, 25 plastic bags, 2 flip-flops, a nylon sack, and more than 1,000 other assorted pieces of plastic. Well, they didn't mention there was any straws. I thought, well, that was a blessing. They didn't at least state the straw. So anyway, they're not saying that killed the old whale. The Bible talks about a large fish eating Jonah. And so he'd have been in there with all that plastic. They didn't have plastic back there at Jonah's time. That was more biodegradable stuff. But anyway, there's 260 million people. What do we got? 330, 340 million in the United States. Indonesia has 260 million people. It's the second largest plastic polluter after China. It produces 3.2 million tons of mismanaged plastic waste each year, of which 1.2 million tons ends up in the ocean. And then we're going to try to change the world over here by... You know what's funny to me? We dump we do some weird things, right? We're going to save the spotted owl, but then on the windmills along the coast of Vietnam, they got the same big old, what do they call them? Windmills? What do they call those things that create electricity? They call them something else other than windmills. What do they call them?
Turbines?
Turbines or
Windmills?
wind turbines. Anyway, they had a bunch of them along the coast in the Trang. And, we're worried about the spotted owl. We shut down the timber industry in California because of the spotted owl, right, and up in Oregon. But then Obama allows the wind turbines an exemption for chopping up as many birds as they can chop, including the bald eagle. You realize that? You're not supposed to kill bald eagles, but if a wind turbine, maybe that's what they're called, wind turbine, if that chews them up, chops them up, and drops them to the ground, they're supposed to count all those birds, right, and report it. The government doesn't care. Even though the wind turbines are a net loss in terms of fossil fuels, it's taken more to create that energy than it does burn fossil fuel oil, because that entire turbine unit, you know the behind the blades, that big unit that sits behind the blades, that the blades turn inside. My friend that was traveling with me overseas, he said, Lou, that's the size of a school bus. That's how big that unit is behind those turbines. It's like a big old, what do they call it? It's like a football that sits behind those turbines. It's shaped like a big tube. He said, Lou, when you get those down on the ground, it's the size of a school bus. That's how big that is. Well, all that steel and all those parts are made by oil-producing factories, right, to create that turbine. So, and they don't last forever. So when you figure out the net contribution to the environment, negative contribution, those wind things are worse than having energy produced by nuclear or by oil or something. So it's amazing how these green people, it's over. It's over. Hey, I think are you going to be back next week? We're going to do a live show next week. So if you want to come back. If not, there's a lot of other stations out there to listen to. All right, stay tuned for sports. You'll know how to bet on these teams if you pay attention to these guys coming up right now. All right, see you later.
Here's a Fox News alert honoring a